The nominee for U.S. Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, cleared a major hurdle in her path to become the newest Trump administration secretary. Her nomination passed out of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee on a party line vote of 12 to 11. The next step, her nomination will be considered by the full Senate. So, how will the Senate and the House partner with the future education secretary to make education great again? Well, here to discuss this, Congressman Tim Walberg. He is the chairman of the House Education and Workforce Committee. He represents the 5th Congressional District of Michigan. Chairman Walberg, welcome back to Washington Watch. Good to see you.
Tony, it's good to see you.
Now, before we get to what the Department of Education may look like under the new secretary, I first want to touch on what the president has already done through executive order as it pertains to education. A lot has already been done.
Oh, it has. I mean, I feel like a bobblehead at times with all of the action in really less than 4 weeks that this president has been doing through executive order, pushing us, giving us opportunity to build and plan for what's going on, pass some legislation already that patterns after his executive orders, such as men and women's sports, prohibition, and the like. So he is making a fast-paced action toward getting control of education and putting it back to an entity that made this country what it is, because education is key to our workforce, and our workforce is key to staying ahead of the world. I mean, he's gone at the higher education saying DEI has to be out of there. And if you have DEI departments, divisions, agencies, or programs, they have to be gone, or federal funding may be pulled from you. He's gone to the K-12 education system and said really exactly what I've been pushing out, that there are 3 key component parts of education in the K-12 especially, and that's the student, the parent, and the teacher. And if those 3 entities are put together in the proper fashion and given the opportunity to do what they do best, things will work. So he said in our school classrooms, this transgender stuff that's going on, it can't be allowed. It can't be part of your setting. You can't have boys playing in girls' sports and worse yet in locker rooms and the like. And he's thrown out the fact that we are going to we're going to push back by removing funding. But I think he's also talking about choice in education. And I would guess that very shortly we'll see some effort to promote choice for all young people, all kids, all parents, because they have to be part of that process, or guardian, to make choices that are best for their children, their students. And ultimately, I think teachers will see again that they are going to be vaulted to the top of the food chain, as it were, as being respected because of what they do in concert with the home, and with the community, with administration, with the school board members, but getting the job done in education.
Chairman Walberg, one of the first steps the president took, as you pointed out, was the DEI. How pervasive has that been in education?
It's all over the place. And I think just calling attention to it and saying we don't necessarily have to come in and peruse through your entire chain of command and your course structure, your syllabi. We're just going to simply put out the fact that if it's there and we find it's there, the consequences will be federal funding. And so I'm getting calls from college presidents, both community college, independent colleges, universities, as well as major universities, saying, we want to do this. We want to commit ourselves to following the law, but you have to help us to understand what that fully means. I think that's a good statement, that simply by having a new sheriff in town, as it were, that says, listen, there are things we have to have in education, educational freedom and opportunity and choice and diversity, but it can't be a diversity, equity, and inclusion that's just the opposite of that, with division, inequality, and exclusion that goes on. So the president is making that clear, even as he's made clear at the border now, without doing anything than what he did differently, or differently than what he did back in his first term, by saying, you're welcome to come to the United States, we get it, but you're going to come legally. And so he's saying to the education establishment, we want you to educate our students. We want you to have academic freedom. But there are certain things that we don't want because they destroy individual students' opportunities with anti-Semitism, with pushback on traditional value students, breaking down of First Amendment liberties, and getting away from a meritocracy that says merit means something in education and academia as it does in the rest of society. So it's a thrilling time to see just by attitude and words, the president is already having some significant impact, and then putting through executive orders that says, I'm going to back this up until Congress is able to get its act together in both the House and the Senate, Education Committee, Health Committee, or the Ways and Means Committees for the financial structure to say the old things are past, the new things are come, getting back to what makes it work.
Yeah, let's talk about that, Chairman, because the contrast between the Biden and Trump administration could not be more stark. There could not be a greater contrast between the two. 4 years from now, if we were to see another shift in the country, all of these gains that we're seeing, this common sense that's returned, could be lost. How do we make sure that that doesn't happen, that our children are not like ping pong balls on a political table that are bounced back and forth depending upon who controls the White House? I mean, common sense has to have an anchor in this country.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's the crux of the problem. This president will do what he told the people he would do. And what he told the people he would do got 77 million votes, the largest vote count in history for his presidency. And the two town halls that I hosted today already, and that's why I'm hoarse right now, we expressed that. So he will do executive orders, and it will have the weight of law, but only as long as he's there, or another president who will abide by those and continue those policies. That's why Congress has to step up in both the House and the Senate and find a means by which we can codify some of these wonderful principles and executive orders that this president is putting forward. That's not going to be easy to do because of the vote count we have. So let me jump to a second thing, if I could, Tony, and that gets into politics, and I recognize that. But the only way this president has 4 years in office is if he has a majority Republican Congress for 2 more years after these two. Because if that changes, one house moves to the Democrat side, then all we have is impeachment, impeachment, impeachment again. And it stops Trump with his ability to make permanent through legislative action. And I think the bully pulpit that will bring some Democrats across. Look at what Fetterman is doing now, and a few other Democrat senators who are starting to talk sense. Seeing that the American people are tired of this progressive socialist philosophy that takes away freedoms from common sense individuals with traditional values and otherwise.
Right.
And I think if we give him these 2 years and 2 more, that's imperative.
It is. It's cultural. It has to be a cultural shift, and obviously the policies help influence that. But as you were talking about earlier, educational heads that have been sold out to the left are saying, yeah, what do we need to do to come in line? We're seeing this with corporate America dropping DEI and all of these woke policies. So elections matter. They certainly do. And it has a shaping influence upon our culture. It's not the anchor that we needed. We've got to have a spiritual awakening in this country to return to transcendent truth. But we just have about a minute and a half left. Department of Education, does it go away or does it stay?
Well, it certainly gets depowered. I'm looking forward to working with Linda McMahon. I was a wrestler, a real wrestler, and I'm not going to pick a bone with her about that. But she does know what a KO is from the World Wrestling Federation. She knows that. We need to do some KOs of agencies, of programs. We need to shift some of those responsibilities. The Civil Rights Division of Department of Education did not stop the anti-Semitic activity on campuses. Let's give that to the Justice Department. They can handle that. The Treasury Department can cut checks for student loans or for our K-12 system until we abolish the Department of Education. They can do it just as well as the Department of Education. And so we have to find means by which we can do what we can do with the votes that we have to start to back down from something that really has hurt us since its inception in 1979, with over $1 trillion spent and no good outcomes.
Absolutely. Without question. Well, it's going to be very, very interesting and I think encouraging to watch this process unfold. By the way, Tim, did you have a stage name when you wrestled?
The only name I didn't want was Fish, and I didn't want to flop on my back. So we learned how to wrestle and move forward.
All right.